I think so many people in life, there are things they really want to do in life. You feel pulled towards something in life. And you're like, okay, I'll try it. And maybe you failed. And then you're like, okay, now you live in fear, or you don't even want to try it. But we want to talk about try versus do. What say you, David?
So a habit is something that breaks down into it's something you do all the time. If somebody says to you, hey, would you take out the garbage? Which happens to me all the time. If I say to them, I'll try. Well, there's no commitment in that. And without commitment, you can't achieve behaviors and activities, and you can't achieve without a commitment to something, anything. You cannot progress. And so the saying about try or do, I know Master Yoda said this: do or do not. There is no try. See, if you try, it's non-committal. And I know a lot of people try a lot of different things. And even I have a quote here from Thomas Edison. Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. Now, that's a good part. Don't give up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. I got to tell you, we got to get rid of that try word. It's a 3-level word, a 3-layered failure word.
Trying is lying.
Trying is lying. Now, do is I believe it's a verb. It's an action word. Try is like an inaction word. I don't know, maybe I'll get to it, whatever. You got to get rid of try. Now, the other part of this is, well, what is it that you are interested in? What is it that you want to do? What is it? So you got to lay aside something. And we were talking about this earlier, about making some sacrifices in order to get rid of try. Try is an anchor. It's a suitcase filled with many bricks that have that word on it. And you're just carrying it around. I'm going to try it again. Don't try it again. Do it again. Right?
Keep doing it again and fail and do again and fail.
That's right.
Yeah. So I like that. Those are cool quotes. Because what's there for me is commitment, right? It's when someone's committed to something, they're going to fail, but they don't quit. And if you don't quit, you can't fail over the long game, the long term. And I think for me, what I've learned in life is you're in it for the long game. Like even these podcasts we do, it's like, how many people are listening? How many, like, I don't care, because what it is to me, it's a long game of making a difference. It's a long game of making a contribution. Are there going to be fails along the way? Are there going to be, things going awry? Yes. But if you're just trying at something, there's no real commit and there's no responsibility, because when you're trying, you don't have to be responsible. Responsible is the ability to respond to whatever comes your way. Whatever the fail is, it becomes a gift. The fail becomes a teacher. It's something you learn from. And then you up level, you upgrade, you evolve who you're being, what you're doing, in what you're committed to over the long term. But trying, it's, when I would train, my leadership trainings, I'd have people, like train people how to be in front of a room, like speaking to a group, and you'd have different levels of commitment in the room. So you have a lot of people in the room with different levels of commitment to what they're wanting to accomplish, what they're up to in their life, in their world, whether they're an entrepreneur or a business person, or they want a yoga teacher or some kind of coach, and you get the people that are committed, they're willing to stand in the fire of failure, stand in the fire of looking foolish, stand in the fire, but they don't quit. They are evolving in and through the fire, that ring of fire. For that ring of fire, I think that everyone has to confront there's the fire, but in front of that fire is a ring of fear. And you have to walk through that ring, that gateway of fear, because I think a lot of people try because they're afraid. And then as soon as they hit a little fire or it gets a little hot, they don't have to be responsible for that. They can bow out. They can quit. shrink back, whatever those defaults are. You shrink, you freeze, or just go into people pleasing, but it's all a deflection of having to stand in the fire. And I don't think we get to, when we're just trying, we don't really get to discover who we are, or better said, who we could be, who we could become. And I think there's that faith factor there too. Faith as, having faith is also having a level of courage, a willingness to take on whatever comes your way. And I think that I want to hear from you on this, but it's like the fire. You're in the fire, you have faith, the courage, but you're also aiming high. You're aiming high. You're present, and you're aiming high, and you don't quit. And again, if you don't quit, you can't fail over the long run, and you discover who you could be. As Shakespeare said, you know who you are, but you know not who you could be. Mm-hmm. And through trying, we never get to really discover who.
You sound like somebody that I have studied for many years, and that is Confucius.
Wow.
What he said was, it does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, though, is how wisdom, and we're going to talk about this, maybe we can intertwine this idea, is that wisdom, it doesn't matter. You could be the wisest person in the world, but sitting on a rock meditating doesn't get anything done.
That's not wisdom.
And so I love what Nelson Mandela said about this. He says, it always seems until it is done. And but done is a two-part word, believe it or not, because the first part of it is do.
Yeah.
D-O-N-E. Do. If you don't do, you can't get it done. You can't just sit there and say, I'll try to do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Never works.
Yeah, wisdom. I like how you bring that up, because wisdom is a word that gets thrown around a lot. And I think wisdom isn't, to me, it's not just the way I look at it. Wisdom isn't just having a lot of great insights or a head full of scriptures or, Bible quotes or dogma in your, that's not wisdom. Wisdom is something you live. It's like wisdom has execution, it has action. And in wisdom, you're doing and you're following your conscience, and you're being led by some higher guidance. You see in the moments which way to go, and you follow those pings of your heart. You follow those promptings, those inner promptings of what to do and what not to do. What not, the non-action of don't go down that path. Don't interact with that person. Don't go into business. Don't go into relationship with that person. Wisdom it's action. It's how you live your life as lived moment to moment is real, to me, is real wisdom. And that results in a way of life. It results in a kind of a consciousness in living, feet and boots on the ground.
Wisdom is, in my opinion, what you just described as a verb. It's an action word.
Yeah.
What's the point of having knowledge and deep understanding, and AKA, if you don't do anything with it? And I'll give you an interesting correlation to that, which is intuition. Now, if a person gets a deep intuition about something, could be a warning, could be a vision of something yet to come, could be a vision of what to do or not to do. But my point is, if you are unable to recognize the value of an intuition, you won't do anything about it. Then the consequence occurs. Then with wisdom, you have these potentially avoidable circumstances that wisdom would dictate. And you ever heard that? Somebody says wisdom dictates, right? Wisdom dictates that you actually pay attention to your deeper self, but most people are very disconnected from their deeper self. They're absolutely living on the surface of the world, and they're stuck there like a fly on flypaper. We don't even see that anymore, but in the South, they've got a lot of it still. Flypaper grabs you and holds you, and it doesn't let you go.
Gluey and gooey, right? Your feet get trapped in it.
Yeah, yeah. So,
yeah. Well, it's back to like when I used to, when I train leaders, and in these trainings I lead, the commitment piece is so you have people who have low level of commitment to whatever they're wanting to do in life. And I say it's out of fear and out of, defending some kind of identity. Like we won't move forward into the fire, and we withhold commitment to something that's pulling us, something we really want to do, but we're almost like giving priority to our fears. We're making fear more important than what is pulling us forward. Because then you see people who have a greater commitment to what they're being pulled towards in their life. And so they're in the fire, and they're failing, they're looking foolish, but they're learning from it. They're transforming it into a future self, and they're discovering their self. They're discovering their potential, you could say. But and they don't quit. And I think it's being someone who you see your commitment, and this is what I'll say about the motivation in the background. It's like what you have things you want to do in life, but I think we all have to, as Socrates said, an unexamined life is not worth living. So it's like we need to look at, well, what's motivating me? Because you see this whole hustle culture, right? The whole hustle culture. You have the Tony Robbins or the Andrew Tates of the world, or all the influencers on social media. It's all about the hustle culture, and you got to push. Well, okay, that's one approach, but where's that? What's motivating you? And I say pushing is some kind of a reaction. You've got to prove yourself. You're living from the source there is you're not enough of something. So you have to prove yourself. But okay, so there's push culture, but then there's and push motivation, and whatever is motivating you, it's having you push, and it's a kind of resistance. But another way is what is pulling you that inspires you? What is pulling you that it's like God is calling you, something greater, something bigger than yourself is pulling you towards something. It lights you up. It inspires you. And to take that pull as the prompting, and to the inner promptings in your soul, in your being, in your spirit, those inner promptings that are getting lined up to whatever it is that's pulling you, that's greater than you, it hears you drop some old identity. You can defend the old identity if you're living from fear and defensive, and you're defending some identity, but it goes into the grain of what's pulling you. So getting present to yourself and getting an awareness around, what is pulling me, and awareness of what's stopping me, what's blocking me, what's got me in a chokehold, this old identity that I'm clinging to that doesn't get me where I want to go, or where God is calling me, who God is calling me to be, but to follow the inner promptings of your heart. But to your point, David, you've got to get present, because most people aren't present. They're operating on all these superficial levels. They're operating, they're running a PR campaign in their lives. Like, please like me, please like me. If they were to really follow the path of what's pulling them, it's risky, and it threatens this identity that needs to be liked or approved of.
I talk about this in many different ways, and most people don't understand when I say we don't have problems. Problems have us. So, and you made a good point about people clinging to an old identity, but it's not that way. It's the other way around. The old identity has us. We don't have the old identity.
Yeah.
We don't cling to the old identity.
Very good distinction.
Clings to us.
Yeah. And it's who we are. That old identity. It's not something we have. It's who we are.
It's who we've become.
It's who we've become.
By default, by not choosing, by not making deliberate, conscious, directional changes in our life, by not being aware, by not being in the present. The old self continues to perpetuate itself. It's never going to let you go. It doesn't. It will. The old self is based upon an old lie, which is you can be whoever you want to be, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you affect. It doesn't matter in the long run, because there's no, I mean, a lot of people don't believe that there's an afterlife, but this life is the beginning of the next. It doesn't matter. It's from the time you're a child. Every 7 years, your life changes. That old life goes away. Can you imagine if a person clings?
Does it go away,
7
though?
years old?
The body,
50?
every 7 years, the body is fully renewed. But the mind and living from the past and old memories and old past, whatever, traumas or past experience, you're living from the past. Now the body's renewing and the mind is malleable, completely malleable, but people don't live like that because this identity that they've become keeps them fixed in that kind of way of being.
Well,
with life.
let's drive this home.
Yeah.
It's a 2-part word, just like done. The first part of done is do. And then the second part is having done it, applying the do, you get it done. But identity, we're saying it wrong. It's id. This is what Freud identified, the id, the subconscious self, the part of us that goes on automatic pilot and lives a life and reinforces itself, constantly looks for self-fulfilling beliefs and what is it called? A confirmation bias. The id is the perfect crystallization of that concept. The id, the ego self, is always looking for confirmation bias. It always wants to reinforce what it already believes, but you have a new life waiting for you. And, you know, Confucius said this about wisdom. By 3 methods, we may learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is not noblest. So we think about it, we look at it, and we go, okay, I can choose away from that. Second, by imitation, which is easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest. When you learn from experience, when you say, okay, I'm done with this, this is over, done. I did this, I'm D-O-N-E, done. And then you walk away from it, and you walk away from that, as you say, clinging to that old way of life that never worked anyway. Then the new horizon, a new possibility, a new potential appears. A brand new way opens up for you.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, it's trying is like, you know, you hear people say, well, just show up in life. But if you're just showing up, that's a low level of living, because you can show up, but where is your commitment is I think an important question. Where is your commitment? And what are you being responsible for, or what do you avoid being responsible for? Mm-hmm. And if it's your calling in life or what's pulling you, and you're just showing up at 1 foot in and you've got 1 foot by the exit door, you never really get to fully discover what it is to do and to get done, what there is to do and get done, following what's right in your heart, and you know it. And whenever you doubt it and you don't follow it, you sell out on yourself.
Hey,
some part of you knows you've sold out, and this old identity, the only way to let it die off is stay aware. It'll scream, it'll shout, it'll keep pulling you. It's like we're standing in 2 worlds as we're moving forward in a commitment. This old identity, you want to start waking up to it so that you can have it rather than it having you. When you bring it into view, when you bring it into your sphere of awareness, and you start seeing this, how this old identity talks to you, that voice in your head, how it's pulling you like gravity. It's pulling you backward toward the familiar, toward the known, toward the comfort zone. But the question isn't, will you survive if you step out of the comfort zone? The real question is, will you survive your comfort zone? Because in that comfort zone that identity is protecting is a slow death.
You know,
it's like smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. Over time, it's killing you off.
Yeah. Henry David Thoreau said this, and I think this is a great place to sort of wrap this up. He says, it's not what you look at that matters. It's what you see. You could spend your whole life meditating and studying, and you look at all this stuff, and it becomes a big pile of stuff in front of you. But what do you see? I mean, I look for meaning in everything. My life has been transformed by meaning. I mean, I could see 1,000, 10,000, 100 million things, but what I see, what I'm looking for, is meaning. That's what I want to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really good. Yeah, I think, on that note, I'll just finish by saying I think meaning is found in, faith, but faith with works, with action and non-action, but the faith of getting present to who you are and who you're not, and getting present to the promptings in your being that are prompting you forward. And you get present and aim high. And in that, you discover meaning. There's meaning. When you have a bigger purpose, when you're up to something that's greater and you're following the promptings of your heart that are leading you into something greater in yourself and in life and who you are for others, you begin to naturally find meaning in life. That living in trying is lying, and you know it. In your heart of hearts, you know you're lying. So thank you all. If you've listened to this point, please, again, share the show. We love hearing from you. Send us any questions that we could respond to so we get to interact with you through the show here. We want you a part of it. And until next time, stay bold, stay blessed, stay true, keep disrupting the drift, and peace be with you.